Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel, and welcome back to our London system series. So in this series, we're following this very nice opening from White's perspective, and today we're continuing again the London system with the so-called Vaganian Gambit. The Vaganian Gambit, I've explained in my previous videos, is basically a line of the Trompovsky attack. So after the move d4, black is playing the move knight to f6, then we can play bishop to g5, and in the main line of the Trompovsky, we can play d5, and now after queen to b6, my recommendation is simply to go knight to c3, queen takes b2, and then bishop to d2, leads into now the so-called Vaganian Gambit. Basically, this position can also happen if you play, of course, the London system. After move bishop to f4, c5, d5, again similar ideas, knight to c3, queen takes b2 can happen, and now after bishop to d2, my recommendation in my previous videos was simply to go e4, f4, knight to f3, then rook to b1, even bishop to b5 are opportunities. So with of course a huge activity, I think white has a great compensation for the pawn. So in this video, we're trying now a different line. We're trying the early e6 move by black. This early e6 move is basically a normal idea of the Benoni defense. I've explained you that when we're going into the Vaganian Gambit, in my previous video, I've explained these ideas to you, that we're basically going into Benoni structures. It's not the same like the common Benoni, but at least with e6 and d6, black is building the normal pawn structures like in the Benoni defense. And then we'll try something like g6, bishop to g7, and with the support of a6, b5, we'll try then of course a very nice queenside attack here, and we'll try get a huge activity on dark square. So here after the move queen to b6 and knight to c3, we're analyzing now this line. It's the move e6, and I've been texted now by one of my great viewers, by Cortium 9000. I've been texted really a great game played by the Komodo Dragon engine against another top engine, RYBKA, and this game is really incredible. I really enjoyed this game. It was such a beautiful attack by the Komodo Dragon. Pre-prepared. This is really one of the best games that I've seen in my life in this particular line. There are now several ways how to approach this position, but of course in our normal Benoni ideas, we should immediately play, I think, the move e4. And as I said, I've explained to you in my previous videos these lines, queen takes b2. If you're worried about this particular lines, please watch my videos before in order to get a better understanding what's going on the board. Basically, after the move queen to b2, I think white has a pleasant game. So we're analyzing now the move e4, and here in the game, RYBKA tried knight takes e4. We should take, but there is a tricky part of black is trying here the counter attack with the move queen to b4. My recommendation is not to go here bishop to d2. If you play bishop to d2, you're lost immediately from white's perspective, because queen to e4 will happen, and now after queen to e2, black will recapture simply the pawn on d5. And the main issue now is that black has here really a healthy pawn structure. Black will escape with the queen, so there's no I don't think we gain such a huge activity here. Even if we queenside castling, black will escape. Still this a2 pawn is hanging, so it's not good. Black didn't mess up the pawn structure. We didn't gain any piece activity, so white is simply lost in this position. So after the move queen to b4, my recommendation is to go queen to d2. And okay, your opponent will take out the knight on e4, but now we should go knight to e2 like the Komodo Dragon played against RYBKA here, knight to e2, and now d6. If now queen takes d5 happens, it's not so good, I think, for black, because white can again gain a huge piece activity. Queen takes d5, e takes d5, knight to c3. The move knight to c3 is very important here. This move will be very important now in any line of this particular variation. After the move knight to c3, maybe black could go d4 in order to keep his extra pawn, but now after knight to d5, basically black is lost. The fork on c7 is a serious threat. In order to prevent it, you have to play knight to a6, bishop takes a6, and now still the fork works. King to d8 we can take. Bishop to b7 is an idea. The knight will eventually get trapped, but we're trying knight to c7. At least we can take out now this pawn, and after bishop to a6, okay, black has now 7 pawns on the board. We have 6 pawns on the board. But we're up the exchange, of course, and I think this is a much better continuation for white. So instead of this After knight to c3, black could also go with the move d6. Now we're simply taking knight takes d5, and now after king to d8, queenside castling should be our main goal here, I think, getting use of the d file. And the best way here for black to proceed is simply to play bishop, the move bishop to e6. And my recommendation now is to go with a very aggressive line g3. This wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show you some lines, some ideas that can happen for both sides. Here after move g3, knight to c6, bishop to g2, king to d7. You see the king is still endangered here, but now we're playing again this very important move, knight to c3. We're attacking simply further the d6 pawn. After rook to d8, knight to b5, and now probably black will go into some d5 ideas. Bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook to d5, king to c8. In this particular line, black found a great way how to escape with this king, but I think still that we have a great activity with our rooks, with our minor pieces. So it's an equal game, but I think you can play this game very easily. You can double up rooks, you can trade off rooks, you can play knight to d6. So many great ways here for to proceed for white. So after move knight to e2, if for instance e takes d5 happens, if you're worried about this particular line, then it's simply the best way here to proceed is simply to castle with ideas of knight to c3. Again, knight to c3, as I said, is our main goal. Not that this move only attacks the queen, it liberates also our light square bishop. Then the light square bishop could come to b5. So this wasn't also played in the game, but I think these lines are very important. So in the continuation of the game, queen to g6 could be an idea, but knight to c3, and you see now after potential d6, again knight to d5 will happen. If now bishop to e7 would simply take, and still the fork is our main goal, so it's not something that black wants to gain. Still we can play, of course, also on some e-file attacks. The king is endangered, so the king needs at least 2 more tempi in order to get to security. Still, as I said, in our Vaganian Gambit style, we have gained at least a great piece activity for the compensation of a pawn. So that wasn't played the game. I hope we have solved now the positions after these ideas after knight to e2. So you see what happens if black takes with the queen or with the pawn. So it's not such a pleasant game for black here. In the game here, RYBKA tried the move d6, and now we're playing here the move d takes e6. If f takes e6 happens, then you see we have weakened the pawn structure too much. We can go now immediately queenside castling again with these ideas, knight to c3, knight to d5. You see still this d6 pawn is hanging. If e5 happens, then we can play simply bishop to g3. Okay, still black has some extra pawns, but knight to c3 is, as I said, our main goal, followed with bishop to b5, rook to e1. I think gives us a pleasant game. We can, I think, in some occasions even sacrifice bishop to e5 when the queen gets somewhere, and then trying some dangerous checks here around the square d8, and probably black is going to even get checkmated. So really wild stuff. This Vaganian Gambit style gives us, I think, a pleasant game, a great activity. After the move d takes e6 in the game, queen to e6 was played by RYBKA. If bishop to e6, then again we can queenside castling. Taking out the pawn is here not an option for black, because again, as I said, knight to c3, our main goal, the bishop gets trapped. So here you're forced basically to play something like d5, but again knight to c3 is our main goal. And now after something like queen to d4, there is now really a cool line. We can play knight takes d5, and after bishop to d5 we can go queen to e1. There is now a very tricky part. If for instance the queen gets here on e4, then we can play here simply bishop to b5 is a serious threat. And you see now the bishop gets trapped, knight to c6. We can immediately play here something like rook takes d5 after queen to e1, rook to e1, and we have grabbed the piece. It's game over here for black. Bishop to e7 can happen, but then we can simply play bishop to d6 and similar ideas. So it's not a good maybe bishop to c6, then followed with rook to e5 wins the game immediately if black covers with the bishop. So So I hope you realize this is really tricky, what white has prepared here. So you see, it's not so easy to take even out to here with the bishop. So queen to e6. Again, we're down a pawn, but I hope you realize that we have now again a great activity. Now it's very important to memorize this particular line. b3. We want to queenside castle. We want to play knight to c3. We want to play even some bishop to c4 ideas. We have to be now active. b3 is a move that you have to, I think, memorize. Bishop to e7, castling, knight to c6 played by RYBKA. We have again this move, knight to c3, and now after castling we have king to b1, securing first the king. The cool part about this particular line is that black can never advance the pawn on d5. Black would love to do it because this backward pawn is of course a long-term weakness. Black would love to improve the position here with the move d5, but it's not possible. In the game, RYBKA tried knight to e5, and now the main goal here is this particular line. That's why this game is such a beauty. Here it's the move h4, and we're trying now to sacrifice more pawns. We want to play g4, h5, because we have, as I said, a great piece activity. We have to use now this moment in order to attack black's king. We have to be faster. That's the main goal. We shouldn't allow here some active play by black with a6, b5. We cannot be passive here. We have to attack the position. So in the game, h6 was played. Now g4. If knight takes g4 happens, then we have bishop to c4. So you see the knight gets deflected from this very important square. Bishop to c4, very important move here. After queen to f6, we have now knight to d5, the fork. So we'll simply take out the bishop, then also this pawn, so it's not so good. Black has to play here queen to f5, but after queen to f5, again we can play this move knight to d5, and here after bishop to f6, rook to g1 is a huge opportunity, I think, to attack the position, because if the queen gets somewhere, if we get maybe f3, then we can also, if the knight moves somewhere, then we can also try some bishop to h6 ideas. You see the g file gets opened, so bishop takes h6 is also serious threat. After bishop to e6, we can take now, and here you see after the move queen to f6, we can take, bishop takes e6. After f takes e6, we can now take out the knight, because the bishop was the key protector of the knight. So really wild stuff. It's not so easy, as I said, for black to defend this position. Here, if you take out with the knight to f6, then bishop to h6 will happen. As I said, it's our main tactical goal here also around that square. g7 is hanging, you will probably lose the rook, so it's something that black should resign. So I hope we solve the problems after a potential knight to g4 move. So you see, it's not possible. In the game, queen to g4 played by RYBKA, we have bishop to e2. Again, we get a tempo for the extra pawn. So I hope you realize we have again a huge activity. All of our minor pieces are out, and we have now immediate possibilities to attack the g file. In the game, queen to e6 was played, and now rook to g1. Now there is this threat. Bishop takes h6, queen to h6 wouldn't be possible, because still we can take out with the queen to h6. So here king to h8 was played, and now comes really a wild move here by the Komodo dragon. This was really a perfect game. It's a beautiful chess game. It's really one of the best that I've seen in my life. Here, bishop to g5. Bishop to g5 creates madness all over the board, because if you take now h takes g5, it's not so good. H takes g5 could happen. King to g8, getting out of the h file. Now we can try f4. Although down a piece, look at our activity. Knight to g6 could be an opportunity now. Bishop to d3. And what we want to do now is simply get an attack on the h file. Queen to h2. If queen to h5, what black is hoping for is to simplify the position by trading off more pieces. But I think now queen to f2 is perfectly fine. Wins the game immediately. It's something again that black should resign. We'll try simply rook takes h4, followed with rook to h1. So the activity on the h file is simply too much to handle here for black. So after the move bishop to g5, you see the Komodo dragon tried bishop to d8, but now f4. Here in the game, h takes g5 was played anyway, but now h takes g5. Again, the knight is attacked. Here king to g8 was played. The RYBKA engine is giving up the knight, but that's not the goal of the Komodo dragon. Knight to d5. The Komodo dragon is trying to activate the pieces. Knight to g6 happened, but now again we have this move bishop to c4. And if now queen to d7 happens, if you get out of the range of the bishop that wasn't played in the game. Here we have a stunner, again, rook to h1, trying some h-file batteries, trying to checkmate around the square h7. Maybe b5 could be an opportunity, but now bishop to f1. Bishop to f1 is very important because we want to stay still with the opportunities to take out with pawn, but we have also now opportunities to play bishop to h3. If bishop to b7 happens, then our main goal, as I said, is to move queen to h2. And now f5, if black tries to create some breathing spaces for the king, we should now play the move bishop takes b5. Now the queen gets deflected, and now basically it's game over after queen to h7. Here we have rook to h6. It's really wild. It's winning the game immediately. Here, if you try knight to e7 to escape with your knight, we can simply take. Although black has 2 extra pieces, the activity of this heavy artillery is simply too much to handle. You see now queen to g6, check, we can play rook to h7, and it's simply game over. You cannot protect it anymore. Bishop to f6, g takes f6, simply wins the game. Queen to b3 is something that just prolongs the game, so nothing special there. So that was the continuation here in this particular scenario if the queen escapes to d7. So in the game here, queen to f5 was played by the RYBKA engine, but again, rook to h1 with ideas of queen to h2. We have rook to b8, and now rook from d to e1. Here the Komodo dragon cuts off a potential king escape on the e file. This is very important. It's a wild move. If you try now b5, maybe to attack the bishop, again, it's not a problem. We have the move bishop to d3. Maybe black can take out this knight, but it's actually a great sacrifice because, again, we're playing normally the queen to h2. We can play now, again, f5 here from black's perspective in order to create some breathing spaces. But you see now this importance of this rook here on the e file. The king will never escape. If the king can escape maybe to c7 with 2 extra pieces, then of course black is winning, so you should never allow your opponent here to escape. We have now g takes f6, very important. After rook to f6, bishop takes g6, taking the last defender in front of the king. We have rook to g6, would be an opportunity, but now it's basically a forced checkmate. Queen to h8, king to f7, now queen to e8. You see now queen to d6. Again, you could escape, but now after queen to e7, there's only one square, and now queen to e8, it's of course checkmate. So really wild stuff. So as I said, after the move rook to e1, here bishop to a5 was played by the RYBKA engine, but the RYBKA engine tried to give back some pieces back in order to stop really this great attack by the Komodo dragon. But okay, the Komodo dragon accept the challenge with the move queen takes a5. Now bishop to e6 was played, attacking the knight, and pause the video and maybe try to see now the best continuation here for white. It's such a beautiful move that the Komodo dragon played here. It's really wild. Pause the video. As we used to say sometimes in our top engine videos, test your might in chess. Try to see now the best continuation. It's really unbelievable move here by the Komodo dragon. It's such a great tactical sequence. Beautiful game. Again, thank you, Cortium 9000. It's my viewer. This is his name on my here on YouTube. Thank you really for posting me this game. These games are really incredible. Of course, I will cover them here. After move bishop to e6, the Komodo dragon engine played this stunner, knight to f6. Look at this sick stuff here. The main issue now about this move is, of course, you have to accept the challenge, g takes f6. We have now bishop to e6. That's the main goal, because there are now many things that can happen. If you try f takes e6, the main issue now, after the move f takes e6, is a tricky idea by the Komodo dragon, is that we can sneak in on the 7th rank. And that's the main issue. We're threatening here the checkmate on h7. If rook to f7, that's the only way to defend this position. You lose your rook on b8. That's the main tactical goal. Beautiful attack by the Komodo dragon. So after bishop takes e6, we have now queen to f4. You see, you cannot take out the bishop, and now comes rook to f1, attacking the queen, queen to c3, and now bishop to f5. We want simply to take out again the key defender. Bishop takes g6. After f takes g6, we saw the problems on the 7th rank, so that's the main goal here of white, to simply open the 7th rank to connect somehow the queen on c7 with the rook here on h1 and attack the h7 square. So here f takes g5, and now comes this idea, bishop bishop to g6. Again, I'm pointing out, let's see, f takes g6, then rook to e1, again cutting off the potential activity. And now if queen to f4 happens, queen to c7, of course, you can maybe attack here, because you cannot attack the 7th rank with this rook. You lose the rook on b8, but now, of course, rook to e7 wins simply the game, so you lose the queen. So after move, let's go back here. After move, bishop takes g6 here in the game. Rook to e8 was played by the RYBKA engine, but now bishop to d3, we're up a whole piece. We have b6. Queen to a4, we have f5, bishop to f5 here, queen to e2, now rook to g1, we have king to rook to f7, now rook to g5, rook to g7, and now again a great and monstrous move here by the Komodo dragon. Bishop to h7. If you try now king to h7, it leads now into forced checkmate. Queen to h4, king to g8, we're playing a check, and now simply this check, it's winning immediately. So bishop to h7 here in the game, king to h8, now bishop to d3, great counterattack. The queen has to move, but now this rook is hanging, queen to e8, and in this position the RYBKA engine resigned. So again, thank you, Cortium 9000, for posting me this game. It's a beautiful attack by the Dragon engine. I think we can use really these games in order to get a better understanding of the Vaganian Gambit and also these ideas. Let's go back. Of course, maybe we cannot calculate so great like the Komodo Dragon, but I think this is a line that we should memorize. So this will probably happen to you in one of your games if you're trying, of course, the Vaganian Gambit ideas. Queen to b4, queen to d2, very important, queen to e4, knight to e2, and now after d6 we take, simply undermining the pressure, but now we gain after b3, knight to c3, king to b1, first securing the king, getting the king on a natural square, and now with h4, g4. This is, I think, the cornerstone of our attack. You saw the problems after knight to g4. Bishop to c4 was the main issue. So it's something that we should really know by heart and memorize, because this is a beautiful attacking opportunity in these types of structures. So as I said, never allow this pawn to get advanced on d5. If that happens, if black manages to get this goal with d5, then d4, you could have a bad game here from white's perspective. So here we have to be fast, even if we have to sacrifice some more pawns just in order to open some files, open some diagonals to create great attacking opportunities. So I hope that you were excited about this game like I was. Great game. Again, thank you, Cordium, for texting me this game. Beautiful attack by the Komodo dragon. If you want to see more attacks like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series with some brilliant attacks by the Stockfish engine, Alpha Zero engine, the Lila Zero engine, Komodo Dragon engine, and some other great games from chess engine history. And if you want to see maybe humans battling in their best chess games, check out my best chess games of all time series. Here's also the link with some beautiful games from the past played by humans. And if you want to study, of course, the London system more, please watch my whole series. I've created now more than 30 videos about the London system from white's perspective. I think you can have a really great and decent opening preparation. It's very important to have a nice opening prep, a repertoire sort of in chess. Here's also the link of my London system series. Please check it out. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos. And what to say, chess is really the best, of course.